When discussing the Zevitz siblings, etc., there is another vital person we must discuss. Sid Zevitz. He is the founder of Zevitz Enterprise and the father of Rudo and Rune. The Zevitz family was never an affluent one. Born the eldest son of the family, ever since he was a child, he was different from his peers. I'd been with him since I was young, and we were practically brothers. Of all the people who I'd grown up with in the slums, he was the only one who I'd remained friends with till the very end. Sid's father was reprehensible. A worthless man, an alcoholic who would become violent with his own family. Truly savage. He won't lift a finger to do any honest work, instead using his shady connections for get-rich-quick schemes to smuggle large amounts of purified mana into the outer pole. When Sid was 9, that man said that he would leave to find work elsewhere, and promptly disappeared from Cadia. Sid had to take care of his weak mother all by himself. At the time, the idea of using mana for energy hadn't existed in Cadia. Instead, we had to use coal and kerosene to make it through winter. The winter cold was so harsh that there were numerous casualties every year. It was where we lived, the slums, that was always hit the hardest. If only we had some kerosene. Until he lost his mother, Sid often repeated that phrase. He and I did our damnedest, working with everything we had to keep his mother in good health, but of course, we were still only 9 years of age. Whatever we made never amounted to much. After 2 years of painful struggle, Sid's mother passed away when we were 11 years old. That year, something inside of Sid changed. He had always been prejudiced against the world, cursing it every chance he got, but that changed completely. Perhaps he came to an epiphany. Unless he changes, the world will swallow him up whole. If he goes on like this, his life will have amounted to nothing but him crawling in the dirt. He accepted the unjustness and brutality of the world. With his mother's passing, Sid was alone and free to do what he wanted. Whenever he had time, he would talk about mana. At the time, it was so completely beyond me. Sid's father, whom he so hated, was obsessed with mana. Although he had hated it, he continued to pursue it, which wasn't something one would expect. Unlike his father, however, he wasn't interested in short-term, get-rich-quick schemes. While we continued working in the coal mines, he would pilfer sediment that had trace amounts of colored mana in them, and bring them back as research material. More flashback stuff yet. Owie! Phew, the foreman's in pretty bad mood today, too. I knew this wouldn't take some hard work, but I tell you, being a coal miner ain't something a human ought to do. Barely pays enough just to put food on the table, too. God, my joints are just screaming in pain. Still, we ought to consider ourselves lucky to even have work. It looks like this year's winter is going to be incredibly cold as well. And it's quite interesting because the town looks exactly the same as it did before, despite not having the new technology that you developed. Well, at least it's freaking hot while we're working. Ah ha. Rather be moving around working than just sitting around school all day. It's way more fulfilling. Who the heck would want to waste your childhood in a dump like that? Not me, that's for sure. You have a point there. Alright, Albus, let me show you something really cool. What is that? That's right, sediment. There's not a lot, but there's definitely a little bit of colored mana inside. Where did you even? While we were mining, the coal mine might actually be a mana mine. What have you done, Sid? Don't tell me you're going to sell that. No way, that's dirty money. They'll find you and throw you in prison. Oh, don't be stupid. Like I could sell such a valuable sample. Sample? Actually, this isn't the first sample I found. The first one I found was smaller than a pea. The deeper I dug, the sediment just kept getting bigger and bigger. You've been sneaking on sediment for that long? Look, just listen to what I have to say first, okay? I made a pretty interesting discovery. Come by my laboratory later. Laboratory? You mean your house, right? Oh, come on, that name's pretty important, okay? If I said my place, it won't get you fired up. I'm struggling to understand your logic here. Look, just pay me a visit, alright? Besides, we could just head straight there, couldn't we? Oh, well, I suppose we could, but today's day with my mom, you know. I thought I'd leave her a flower or two. I see, it's already been that long, huh? Anyways, just meet me in my laboratory. See you there! Fast forward to a few years later. We began to immerse ourselves in colored mana purification research. We conducted all sorts of absurd experiments. Sid loved high-risk experiments, a trait he may have inherited from his father. On one occasion, he suffered a mana shock and ended up being unable to move his left arm. As I continued to support Sid, we both spent our adolescent years in mana research. Every day. Every single day. We toiled as if possessed by the god of mana himself. After countless failures, we finally succeeded. But finally, we were able to purify colored mana. This isn't self-praise or exaggeration. It truly was the discovery of the century. The news quickly spread throughout the entire outer pole. Then one day we began to look for investors who were willing to commercialize the mana system. Why? Tell me, just what was all that hard work for then? What exactly we're going to do if we don't look for investors? The conversion efficiency with just this filter isn't good enough! The sediment has low mana concentration, that means there isn't going to be enough energy. Just how much time do you think it takes to convert enough energy to match a candle that lasts burning for 2-3 hours? At this point, mining coals is still more efficient. Well, of course, our research is just in its initial stages, so if we continue our line of research, then... By the way, have you heard of electricity before? Electricity? Oh, you're talking about that person the third sector is trying to control the energy from lightning? That's right. But from what I hear, that technology is still in its infancy. And not only that, it's quite dangerous. I mean, it's lightning. That stuff hurts. According to the opinion of the Board of Science, it probably won't see any widespread use anytime soon. The opinion of those idiots over the board ain't worth their salt. If mana didn't actually exist, I'm sure as heck be looking to electricity too. Besides, if we're talking danger here, mana's just as guilty. Heck, it might be that mana's way more dangerous than electricity. What would make you say that? My left arm's been acting up again lately. Can't you see how it's stuck in my pocket? Does it hurt? Nah, not exactly. Feels like it's, I don't know, it's weird, like it's slowly being eaten away by something. What in the... Has it been that way since you're able to move it? No, just recently. Didn't say anything at first because I didn't really get in the way of work, but it's been hard to ignore lately. I wonder what's causing it. No clue, but one thing's for sure, there's still a whole lot of unknowns we've yet to discover about mana. As a result of further research, we succeeded in generating a stable, usable amount of mana. In the meantime, we managed to meet willing investors who were interested in our work despite our youth. We sure got lucky, I commented, but Sid said no, we made this happen, in response. He was the type who hated any fatalistic mindsets. A few years later, everything was going smoothly. Thanks to the investors, Zavit's enterprise was established without a hitch. At the same time of the founding, Sid married a girl from a neighboring town who had entered the company. Her name was Aline Cresserol. She had unnaturally beautiful emerald eyes and pearly white skin, outspoken and imbued with a strong sense of justice. However, she had been born with a weak constitution, much like Sid's mother. Her, Aline's, which was to benefit other people in the world. She was the type of person who could change the atmosphere just by being there. No matter how rebellious or contrarian someone is, they would immediately become docile and obedient when faced with her. One couldn't help but think of her as a good person, regardless of logic or reason. She was a simple, truly lovable human being. There wasn't anyone who wouldn't be inspired by her zeal. As Zavit's grew in power, so did its profits and efficiency, as it continued to devote itself to the greater good. It didn't reach its peak efficiency, but when winter came, it managed to cut casualties down to less than half. The company continued to gain influence. As we continued to grow in fame and fortune, Rudo was born. Rudo. He was truly a brilliant child. Having inherited both Aline's kindness and his father's wisdom, Rudo was truly a good person. We lived our days in happiness. At the time, we hadn't realized, somewhere unbeknownst to us, we had created a great and powerful enemy. Hey, Sid, Aline, have you heard about Helvers? That's the company of that idiot who tried to control lightning, right? Of course I have. I have too. It's not, and none of it ain't good. The filter they're using, that's the one that Sid designed. Shouldn't we do something about them? Who cares? Honestly, I don't even know what they're trying to do with those old relics filters. But that clearly means he's putting a target on your back. He must be bitter that you've ruined his plans for electricity. Ah, that bastard can do whatever the hell he wants to. He failed to make electricity succeed. He's got a grudge against us, and now he's sticking his neck into the mana industry. And to top it all off, he uses a product that his rival designed to start his own company. He shows guts, I'll give him that. I promise you, we are equals from here on. And don't be stupid, I won't do anything like that. He's got no vision. Touche. Oh, touche. Her face changed, so I thought she was talking, my bad. But you have a point. What does he hope to accomplish by using those filters? That's a losing strategy when going up against us. Well, who knows? We're up against someone who's trying to use his enemy's ideas against him and live. You'd be surprised how tough a nutjob like that is to take down. What's wrong, Lean? You look pretty pale. I have a bad feeling about all this. How come? It's just everything has been going so smoothly for all of us. Something's gotta happen sooner or later. I thought you were the optimistic one. Hey now, you're talking about karma? We ain't done a single awful thing to anyone. Why do you think we need payback for all the happiness we've been experiencing so far? I suppose so. A few years later, Rune was born, and then your life became hell. With almost inexplicable timing, Venixk experienced an explosion of growth. Despite being of no competition in terms of both experience with mana and the underlying technologies, they managed to one-up us in terms of business acumen. Their expansion was absolutely unprecedented. Ugh. No one was able to anticipate that Havets could gain enough power to compete with Zevets in just a few short years. Man is likely to become a highly dangerous substance to us residents of the Outer Pole, just had been to Sid when his left arm was affected. Making one mistake and you could lose your life. Sid knew that well. Because enough investors for the company were secured, Sid was able to prioritize development of medical treatments when Zevets Enterprise was first established. Lean spearheaded the charge, having Zevets assemble every skilled doctor around and founded Zevets Medica. People had to undergo proper training to handle mana as part of their work in Zevets. Zevets dedicated its resources to educating and training its employees. However, it takes time to develop competent mana miners and settlement handlers. Regardless, developing skilled, educated personnel and providing a safe work environment were top priority. On the other hand, Havets' strategy was to completely ignore all such safety protocols and exploit the poor economic situation. Havets' strategy, Process 1, is a drug extracted from mana, creating humans who could continue to work without sleep or rest, and who could produce antibodies that could combat mana. Furthermore, the subjects of the drug were promised lifetime employment, immunity to low-level mana shock, and superhuman strength. Havets poured its efforts into marketing itself as an entity that could grant these kinds of abilities, serving to excite its subjects all the more. The masses ate up Havets' hyperbole-filled slogans. It is a devious strategy that resonated with everyone at the time when employment was at an all-time low. Hey. That was just too much. Yeah. After effects on subjects, I can't believe they're that horrible. Completely losing it because of insomnia, turning into nothing but skin and bones, bodies running away due to partial mana shock. The abbey is filled with victims of Havets operations. Some patients even had to be carried off to a church in the neighboring town. I know. And Sid, we have another problem. I brought Lena and the Medica's chief over to the friars to propose the construction of a general hospital under Zevets, but they gave you the stink eye? Yes, or rather, we were assailed with some rather unbecoming speech. It was because of people like us that the god of man was angered, causing these victims in the first place. That this was divine retribution for being blinded by our greed and desire for convenience. Damn. I can't exactly tell whether or not the priest was right. But this isn't time for that. I believe we need to pursue the Medica project even more now. Why doesn't the government just outlaw the human testing of Process 1? That would solve the problem altogether. I'm pretty sure that if the Board of Science would just do something, the government would. I doubt that. Why? People are dying here! The technology to create Process 1 for mana was developed on the Outer Pole. Only those who have been trained can make it, and of course you need to use machinery that's only available on the Outer Pole. So, here's my take on the whole situation. The government, the Board of Science, and Havets are all in cahoots. Suspicious. Secretly exporting Process 1. What? Why do they do that? First possible use for it that comes to mind is the same thing that Havets does for their workers. Drugs to dope up crafters. Performance enhancement for armies, or maybe they found a way to weaponize the stuff. Well, it's still a pretty new substance. Depending on where the research goes, they could find all sorts of uses for it.
Oh.
Well, not that I have any proof or anything, it's just a guess. Sid, the worse your predictions get, the more likely they are to be true. Anyway, put that aside, let's get back on track. Like Elvis said, I don't plan to give up on getting that hospital set up.
But Sid, a vast majority of those patients would rather seek salvation from the church than medical attention from a hospital. I'm sure they try to get into an overcrowded abbey that a newly built hospital, and if that isn't possible, they just resign themselves to death.
Do people hate us that much? It can't be. We didn't do anything for the people who hate us that much, right?
I suppose to the average layman there isn't much difference between Hivets and us. In any case, I don't see any real point in constructing a hospital with the way things are now.
Damn, what do we do then?
Well, Sid, I have a plan.
Hmm?
What you said about the government and Hivets really got me thinking. Why don't we just make the church allies with Zevets?
Huh?
Financial backing is a given. We renovate their facilities, give them new equipment, maybe even build a new abbey altogether. Then we name the hospital after the church and put it under their management. But in exchange, the actual hospital's operations will remain under Zevets Medica. What about that?
What?
As they say, Rex regnant et non gubernaret. They will reign but not govern.
Wait just a minute here. This entire thing's gotten so huge I don't even know where to begin. First we were going to build a hospital, now we're going to build a hospital? Besides, they clearly hate us. What makes you think they'd even want to work with us?
I have a good idea.
Idea?
I heard that quite a number of sisters passed away the other day to a contagious form of Venixk. There were some who put their life on line trying to subdue the patients who grew violent and unstable. With love as their only weapon, they tried to quell some men who were many times stronger than they were, muscles swollen from the doping effects. Anyway, they did absolutely everything in their power to provide their utmost care for the patients. Sid, we should dedicate our next project on absolute obedience automata to the sisters. And rather than models specifically made for the nanominds, we should focus on creating humanoid models to help support the sisters. That way they can protect the sisters from any contagious forms of man shock or any patients who get too violent.
Elaine, that's quite an ambitious plan. I mean, yeah, first we're going to make it hospital, and now we're making golems. Well, it might actually work. I'll pass a proposal to our mechanical engineering partners about this. As a sort of poetic justice to all us. But people like us who make a living in science. Probably the least theistic thing there is. To be saved by religion.
I think we have to pay attention to the little details like that. Let's focus on caring for the patients and minimizing the victims.
Ugh. A few days later, we headed to the church.
Father, we are indebted for being allowed an audience today.
But of course, anything for the famous president of Zevets Enterprise, whom the church so despises. Now, what is it? Mr. Sid Zevets, what is it that you and your organization need of us?
My wife told me about your circumstances here the other day. I've heard that many of the sisters here have become victims of the subjects they were trying to save.
That is the unfortunate truth. The state of affairs was brought about by the competition between you and Hivers. By playing with mana, you treat the blessings of God like mere toys. Do you understand that this is blasphemy? Do you have anything to say as a fool who chose to ignore the faith and blindly pursue science until its bitter end?
I have no words to offer in my defense, but Zevets, we have no intention of just giving up. Even if Zevets Enterprise were to abandon this mana race and let Hevas win, and won't put a stop to the victims. I can confidently say that we are on the side of good here. We conduct our business with the highest moral and ethical standards.
To me, the nature of your business and Hivets is one and the same.
I'm well aware of that. However, I want you to understand that we will not back down against Hivas. We have our own beliefs to adhere to.
Why do you continue to rebel against God like this? It is God's will that we must simply accept, so we can carry out His divine plan. Is it that difficult to simply accept what has been given to you and live a life within your means? Science is nothing but the height of folly. It is proof that you are ungrateful to the blessings and the life that you have received.
Sure, that might be the case for you. But let me tell you this, Father. As long as we humans have this thing called curiosity, the march of science will never stop. We just had to find out about the hidden possibilities of mana. No, it's not just about mana. You tell a human being to live in this world without trying to satisfy their curiosity? That's just plain impossible. And curiosity is another one of those gifts that your God gave us humans, isn't it?
Blasphemy. Did you want to meet with me face to face simply to lecture me on God and human nature?
No, we came here because we'd like to pitch something.
Pitch? What could this be now? I'm too old to play baseball, you little bastard.
We're currently developing machines to assist with work in the mines. They'll be powered by mana and be able to understand what we have to do and carry out those commands.
What in the...
However, we decided to stop work on that. Instead, we've decided to devote our time to creating machines to provide support to the sisters of the church.
And why exactly would you do that?
Father, do you want to work with us at Sevitz?
I beg your pardon?
Right now, even if we build a general hospital in town, there will be far more people who would seek help from the church. But Father, that just isn't going to work out. Sorry to say, but what you're doing isn't going to save a single life. The only way to save people who are dying from mana is the mana itself. We have completely different values, but I'm sure that we share the same fundamental desire to save as many people as we possibly can. Please, let us work with you. I'm sure patients wouldn't have any problems if you have them go to a hospital that has your blessing.
I see.
And there, we're going to have our machines take the place of the sisters instead. We've already partnered with an engineering company to make sure that they look perfectly human. They'll just have as much humanity as we do. If you let the machines deal with any dangerous patients, I'm sure you can prevent any sisters from losing their lives. This Sisters project is our way of showing our sincerity in this proposition. Please, won't you consider?
I see how it is. Truly a suggestion that could only have been put forth by someone so entrapped in worldly desires such as yourself. A suggestion that completely and utterly ignores the demands of our church.
Well,
No, that's enough. This is no longer something we can discuss. However, you wish to save as many as you can, correct? Your sentiment reeks of arrogance and lack of a concern for the souls of the deceased, but very well. I can understand your reasoning.
we're very grateful for...
However, we cannot accept those machines of yours.
Why not? Don't you want to prevent any more of the Abbey sisters from becoming victims?
Of course I want to put a stop to the victims, and I wish to save as many people as we can. However, these patients have all come here seeking salvation from God, while I suppose you atheist heathens wouldn't understand. No matter how well they can mimic human behavior, like how a hymn sung without a heart won't heal. Prayer from something without a soul will not save anyone. That's it? Just silenced by a member of the clergy? Still, for such non-believers to save lives in the name of church, your convictions have come through. I will need some time.
Okay.
Oh my. The mind sync was cut. The connection just... Oh no.
Sorry, I'll get a patch up now.
Lady, more bluntly, how's your condition?
Well...
Oh, I mean, how do you feel?
Yeah?
No, I mean, it's...
Such a pain! It's the first time I've had so much difficulty connecting the die right.
Is this case much different than usual? There has to be just the right amount of pressure from external mana so the internal mana can stabilize. Being able to refine mana consistently is quite a difficult feat. Even though we look to be the same people, it's amazing how differently our bodies can function. It's like we're completely different species.
I beg to disagree. It all boils down to presence or absence of mana. If we were to stay here too long, then our mana systems would end up deteriorating and we would end up with the same physicality as you. Albus, you and we are all just the same human beings.
I see.
If I may, about that memory just now, you referred to a church. Does this mean there are also mana-related religions in the Outer Pole?
There certainly are. In fact, the reason why a company like ours was able to grow so much despite being anything but religious is because of Lean's idea that we partner with the church. Even in the Outer Pole, there are plenty of people who seek help from the God of Mana. I never knew. The owner of the pawn shop said that the God of Mana have forsaken his land, which is what led to the development of science. That's pretty accurate. Even though our principles and religion contradict each other, they can still coexist with each other. When all boils down to it, us humans need something to believe in. Even if it is a God who's abandoned us. I thought this was a land with nothing but self-serving individuals, but that wasn't the case.
Sarah and Lee have such a strong sense of duty and concern. Those two are truly amazing. There's so much I can learn from such wonderful people.
Agreed. While so fixated on working on simply conducting research, those two were always wholeheartedly directing their efforts into making the Outer Pole a better place. I was often reminded of the differences in our personalities when they were still around. What do you mean? I'd heard that Sid had already moved on to the next world, but his wife Aline also passed on as well.
Yes, several weeks after Rune died, she had also passed away. You see, Aline was killed by Rune. She laced the tea Aline had always drank with processed one before it was refined into a drug. Oh. Huh? She was killed by her own flesh and blood daughter. I can't believe it. Rune, who often frequented Zavit's labs, had actually snuck in and stole process one that was kept for research purposes. She had taken enough to kill 10 adults. Directors and executives of companies from other outer pole regions who were all supposed to merge with Zavitz had later been found dead, poisoned. Rune then committed suicide after. Thanks to that one incident, our dream, Sid's, Aline's, and mine, to expand Zavitz throughout the outer pole was completely scrapped. I was at a sincere loss for words. Just what could possibly drive Rune to do all that? Just 10 years of age, we had heard that she was a problem child of sorts. No, this is far beyond that. A devil's spawn. She certainly does live up to that nickname. What was her motive? There must have been something that pushed her to do that, right? Are you going to find anything like that? Rune had an abnormality in the brain, you see. A portion of her brain wasn't working. Even if she was able to understand emotions like happiness, sadness, and anger, she couldn't feel them herself. She didn't feel fear or guilt, nor was she able to develop a sense of compassion. But could someone have developed such destructive tendencies simply because of a lack of emotion? I don't know, maybe Rune was special, but at this point there's no way for us to find out. Sorry to interrupt, but I finished the connection. Are you alright, Sophie? You're looking a little pale there. Yes. Do you continue from earlier? Yes. Alright, here on it'll be about Zeva's siblings. Now I have to warn you, it's going to be rather disturbing. Are you sure you want to keep going? We are...